Hi, I'm John Decker, author of the book and Bible study, Golf is My Life, Glorifying God Through the Game. This is chapter 4 of the video series, and we're going to be covering the world's longest hole. Before we get to that, I want to talk about As Seen Through My Eyes, because Pete McDaniel, the editor of the book, actually writes this As Seen Through My Eyes. So he is introducing the chapter, and he did a fantastic job with it. You'll notice that there's two pictures of Pete and Tiger Woods, as I mentioned earlier in one of the earlier videos, that Pete was actually Tiger's writer for instructional articles that he did for Golf Digest. And Pete has been so instrumental in this book and really helped shape this chapter. He also he gave me the idea about changing the title of the book or the title of the chapter, and he actually suggested the change, and I'll talk about how we came up with the world's longest hole a little bit later. But before we do that, I want to talk about 2 years before I actually wrote the book. I had a meeting with Pete in Atlanta, and I went to Pete and I said, Pete, I've got a chapter in the book. It's titled Discrimination, which is now the world's longest hole, but at the time it was discrimination. And I said, before you agree, because Pete had agreed to come on as my editor, I said, I've got to tell you about this story. And I told Pete the story, and it was a story that's in the world's longest hole, and it was a childhood story where I actually used the N-word as a child. And it was something that I was repeating from older kids that I heard. I did not know that what I was saying was wrong, but I had to be upfront and honest with Pete, because I wanted Pete, as a black man, as a man who is someone I respect dearly, to know going in what the stories were going to be about. This was not going to just be a golf book. This book was going to touch a lot of areas that society has trouble sometimes opening up to. And I hope that this chapter will open up the lines of communication and heal small groups, heal communities, heal churches, and who knows, maybe even heal nations through the power of Jesus Christ and through the power of the Lord. The world's longest hole starts out with Scripture, and it's from James 4:11. And I'm just going to go ahead and read this whole scripture, because I don't want to summarize it, because I don't want to mess it up. I want to get it word for word. Do not speak evil against one another, brothers. The one who speaks against a brother or judges his brother speaks evil against the law and judges the law. But if you judge the law, you are not a doer of the law, but a judge. And that's James 4:11. The biblical theme for this chapter is judging others or discrimination. And like I said, I knew that this was one of those chapters early on. There's two chapters that really I didn't want to write, but I knew I had to write because I knew that they were great stories that would really help open up a lot of great communication with the book, but also that there were great golf stories that were tied to them as well. And so when I sat down to write this, the title of the chapter was Discrimination. Again, I used the N-word as a child. It's something I'm not very proud of, and it's something that I know when it happened, it was a learned behavior. The one thing that I've learned in my life is that hatred is a learned behavior. We are not put on this earth to hate each other. We love each other. You think about when you're a child, all your friends, I mean, it didn't matter when you were like real young. It didn't matter what color they were. It didn't matter what sex they were. It was you just played and you had fun and you were together. And it wasn't until you got older and things started, ideas got formed in your mind that this person, stay away from this group of people because of whatever reason. And that's essentially how discrimination is formed. It is a learned behavior. I heard older kids using the N-word, and I repeated it to a black child. I do not know who it was. I do know that he was on the playground at school. And I ended up getting in trouble for it, and rightly so. And so it's a great story. I don't want to tell any more about the story because I don't want to give it away for the book. but it really sets the tone for the book. Now, this chapter is also about my move from Bryson City, North Carolina to Black Mountain, North Carolina. And when I got there, Black Mountain was famous for having the world's longest hole. It is a par 6 at the Black Mountain Golf Course, and it was actually in 1976, it was in the Guinness Book of World Records as being the world's longest hole. And so 745-yard par 6, and I had not played golf yet, but as soon as I saw that billboard when I drove into town, I was like, I've got to play that hole. And so it talks about my passion to want to get out and play golf. And then I was told as a 9-year-old I could not play golf because I wasn't old enough. So I got to feel the sting of in a small version of what discrimination felt like. When someone tells you no, you can't do it. I also touch upon the subjects that's been a black eye for golf for many, many years, and that is the discrimination of both men and women and Jews and all the different races, all the different ethnic origins about at private clubs. And basically, I talk about that in the book as well. So this is a quote-unquote hot topic of issues that are still relevant today. But when we were going through and doing this, when we finally had it edited, and Pete had gone through it and edited and added and made some changes, he came to me and he said, you know, John, I don't think you should name this discrimination. I think that you should name the title of this chapter, The World's Longest Hole. And basically, the world's longest hole is a long journey. We are not to use words that that speak evil against other people. We're to love our brothers. We're to love our neighbors. And the world's longest hole is symbolic of the journey that we are all on, and we are all called to be a part of as Christians, as Americans, as human beings. It's to love our neighbor, it's to love our brothers, and to set the example for the world. So yes, the world's longest hole is still a part of our society, but I pray that during my lifetime that this book will help open up eyes and help heal some wounds that this nation and our country needs. Enjoy The World's Longest Hole.